Hello and welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. Club football is back. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by the duo of Mark O'Hare and Adrian Clarke. There's plenty of action to get stuck in over the Christmas period. Mark, I'll hand over to you first, though. In terms of, we were just chatting off air, like it's hard to remember at the best of times what happened the week before, but we're going back 6, 7 weeks. You were saying there you nearly forgot that Brentford beat Man City.
Well, I didn't nearly. I definitely did forget that Brentford beat Man City until I started doing my prep on the Brentford match against Spurs coming up. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about how anyone else dealt with it, but I just kind of shut down on Premier League immediately after that weekend and full focus on the World Cup. And then, yeah, I've only really sort of kind of got back into Premier League mode in the last couple of days. Really, I had a couple of days after the World Cup off completely just to try and refresh myself. But and yeah, it's been a case of trying to catch up with what you've missed out or where we were 6 weeks ago and see if we can apply that to the coming days or so. But yeah, it's very weird. I mean, we've obviously never dealt with anything like this before, so there will be caveats for the weekend or the week ahead. So yeah, it's a case of trying to deal with each team individually and sort of assess them where they're at, what they've achieved in the last 6 weeks or 7 weeks, what they've been able to do or what they haven't been able to do. So yeah, it presents challenges, but hopefully we found a few bets to keep people interested in.
Yeah, Adrian, in fairness, I did check the table and Arsenal are still 5 points clear, which is fantastic, I think, isn't it?
It's nice, yeah. I've got a Christmas jumper that celebrates that with the Arsenal badge
yeah.
on top of the tree, as you might expect. I wish I'd worn it today, but yeah, I had it on yesterday. So, but yeah, no, it's looking good. But who knows? We just don't know how Arsenal will come out of the break. We don't know who will hit the ground running. The form table really is as irrelevant as it'll ever get because of the gap. But yeah, there's a few things you can weigh up, and you just got to make some educated guesses this weekend if you want to get involved. But I'm excited to have it back, and it's going to be football all the way between now and the end of May now, isn't it? Which is good, is fine by me.
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh, it's hard getting back into club football. And Adrian's like, no, I'm ready. Arsenal top of the league. Let's go all the way relentless. And in fairness, there is some good games over the Christmas period, which we'll get into. The 4 games we're going to cover: Brentford, Spurs, Leicester versus Newcastle, Aston Villa versus Leeds, and Leeds versus Man City as well. Incidentally, the podcast offer that we were running throughout the World Cup, we're going to keep that going for this particular podcast. So if you enter the Bonus Club podcast, you can double the odds on Adrian and Mark's best bets, which I like to kind of look at now, and we won't give them away too much, but that'll be at the end of the show. So yeah, do get involved. That's up to £50 in cash. New customers only. Be gamble aware. So we'll get straight into it and go to Brentford versus Tottenham and take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. You can currently back Brentford at 4.1. Tottenham just under evens at 1.98. The draw is 3.85. Both teams to score yes is 1.77. No is 2.2. And the Asian handicap line sees Brentford get half a goal start, and the total is 2 3/4. So, yeah, Mark, over to you on this one. This is probably a tough game to decide. Spurs have a lot of injuries. You mentioned Brentford getting that famous win before Christmas. And where are you looking for in terms of a bet here?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's got the potential to be quite exciting, quite entertaining, quite a watchable affair. I think from a Brentford perspective, they're sat in 10th in the Premier League right now in terms of points earned. If you look at the underlying metrics, expected points as the Brentford sat in 8th. So in terms of results, they were largely tracking alongside their underlying performances, which is always good and encouraging. They've only lost 4 times in the first half of the season, only one of which came at home against Arsenal quite early on in the campaign as well. And as you say, before the break, they were the shock winners away at Man City, and they had been missing quite a few players. Performances had been quite disjointed and inconsistent before that victory. So they've got a few players back, still a few players missing. I think Pontus Jansson and Aaron Hickey are probably still not quite there, but none of their squad featured in the knockout stages of the World Cup. So Thomas Frank should have a relatively strong side available to him. Ivan Toney, of course, is available despite the charges as well, so that's a big plus. The only slight negative was them Brentford losing their assistant coach during the break. He's gone to manage Anderlecht, and their replacement wasn't able to join them in Spain for their training camp because of a work permit issue. But he is there now, but minor sort of negatives really there. So yeah, I'm quite positive about Brentford. They always have been quite a tough nut to crack at home to Big Six opposition since promotion. Their record, on paper, it doesn't look that great. 2 wins, 3 draws, and 4 defeats, but that's 4 defeats across 9 matches against Big Six opposition, which is pretty strong. Only 2 defeats by more than a 1-goal margin, and they held Spurs here last season as well. So I think they'll see this as a good opportunity. Tottenham I think were very difficult to trust before the break. They did endure quite an exhausting 6 weeks before the World Cup with 13 games across 43 days. But then 11 of their squad went off to the World Cup. 9 played pretty regularly. We'd assume that, well, at least Romero's definitely not going to be playing here, but Perisic and Lloris, we don't really know about. Richarlison's missing. Rodrigo Bentancur is both suspended and injured anyway. So got the England contingent who should be available, and Dejan Kulusevski who will be fit and available, which is a big plus. But I don't think Spurs are going to be close to being full strength here. So I think that does present opportunities for Brentford. I said they were difficult to trust, Spurs, before the break. They'd won just 3 of 8. On the road, they'd won just 3 of 7. They've only managed 4 clean sheets all season. So I still find them difficult to trust. And I wouldn't be backing them at odds-on quotes here myself. So Brentford plus half a goal at close to evens stood out to me. But I also want to give a nod to both teams to score as well. You can play at BTTS or over 2.5 goals or both if you want, because Brentford will have Tony playing. We expect Spurs to have Harry Kane playing. The Bees have fired just 4 blanks in 15 this season. Spurs have scored in all but 1 of their 15 games. Obviously, both very impressive records, but defensively, they've each managed just 4 clean sheets so far this season. And if you combine both teams' records for both teams to score hit rates, you get 19 from 30 in the Premier League, which is a 63% return, which is really strong, actually. So I'm expecting this to be a keenly contested London derby and goals on the agenda. But I back Brentford plus half a goal, and I back both teams to score at just shy of 1.8.
Okay, yeah, and stay tuned for long shots for potential combining those selections. Adrian, it's goal lines are a little bit higher. Both teams to score is odds on. Club football is back, and you do like goals here, Brentford, Tottenham.
I do, yeah. I'm aligned with Mark pretty much completely here, to be honest. The two bets I had down were over 2.5 goals and Brentford plus half a goal. So for all of the same reasons that he's outlined, one thing I can add is that Tottenham's record in away London derbies, for whatever that's worth, is not good. They've won one of their last 15 away London derbies. They've drawn 6, lost 8. That's a pretty poor return. So this isn't the type of fixture they've been winning of late, and they are really down, aren't they? Who knows whether Hugo Lloris will play, but yeah, Bentancur, Richarlison out is a blow. Romero certainly won't be fit, so it'll be a patched up defence to a degree. I was looking at Brentford as well in terms of thinking about the goal angle. Brentford's friendlies, all 3 of them have had both teams to score in them. They didn't win any of them, by the way, so they're not in great form for whatever it's worth in the sort of warm-up games. But they'll still be sort of on cloud 9, I guess, from that 2-1 win at the Etihad. I think that cloud over Ivan Toney could work one of 2 ways. It could, be on his mind, and that's an issue, or it could fire him up even more to go out there and deliver while he's got an opportunity to play, because you would imagine there will be some kind of suspension kicking in. In terms of over 2.5 goals, both teams have seen it land in 60% of their matches so far this season, which is very much at the top end of things. So, these 2 have been involved in matches involving 3 goals or more, a lot of times. Can't trust Spurs at the back, as Mark's outlined, but Brentford are very, very similar. Only 5 teams have conceded more goals than Brentford this season. I think, they're scoring more, but they're also letting in a few more as well. So, I'm going to go with over 2.5 goals here. But I wouldn't be against anyone going with that Brentford plus half a goal handicap as well, because this Spurs team is definitely weakened, and they haven't been as good as you'd expect them to be for an Antonio Conte team in terms of clean sheets. They've been few and far between.
Okay, yeah, I nearly forgot that I have to lock in a bet in these Premier League podcasts. So I do like Brentford plus half a goal at 1.96. I think we'll lock that in as an official bet. But yeah, the guys have made some good points in both teams to score, and the overs there as well. Listen, at first, you just want to say thanks to a lot of people in the comments, a lot of people thanking the guys for the podcast over the years. We love bringing them, we love doing them, and it's great working with Mark, Adrian, and Miguel. So do get your comments in. Let us know your best bet over the Christmas period. Hit that like button, and if you're listening on the podcast, we'd really appreciate that 5-star review as well. It just helps us get that content out to a wider audience. But yeah, we love doing the podcast. Keep the comments coming in. We'll move on to the second game, which is Leicester City versus Newcastle, and take a look at the betting as we have it currently on the Matchbook betting exchange. Leicester City 3.4. Newcastle 2.3. The draw is available at 3.65. Both teams to score yes is 1.74, no is 2.22. Leicester get a quarter goal head start on the Asian handicap line. The total is 2.5. Adrian, we were talking about people forgetting. I nearly forgot Newcastle are like one of the best teams in the league now. It's hard to believe 2.3 away to Leicester City, and you're still kind of going, could potentially make the case.
Yeah, look, I think this is a difficult game to call. I think these are two really strong teams. The two teams that didn't want the break, aren't they? I mean, Newcastle, 7 wins in their last 8 matches before the break. Leicester City had been in terrific form as well. They conceded just 3 goals, Leicester, in their last 8 matches. And in that run of 8 games, 6 of them featured clean sheets. So they've been in really good nick. And it's just a case for Eddie Howe, for Brendan Rodgers of, can we pick up where we left off? Because they were both incredibly solid. Looking at Leicester, across the previous 8 games, that 8 game run before the World Cup, they were the 4th best team in the Premier League. And I think that went sort of over a few people's head, really. Because they were effectively coming from the bottom of the table. They've climbed into the sort of lower mid-table reaches, but their form is much better than that. They've won 4 of their last 5. The only loss was 1-0 at home to City when De Bruyne stuck that free kick in the top corner. So, yeah, they're a tough nut to crack at the moment. But then you look at Newcastle, and they've got an amazing defensive record. I mean, the clean sheets for fun. I think they 3rd in the division. Joint best defensive record overall, alongside with Arsenal. They got 0-0 draws as well, didn't they? At Old Trafford, at the Amex Stadium. Not easy places to go, but they kept things nice and tight there. And both teams had successful tune-ups, didn't they, in the Carabao Cup this week? And if you saw, Leicester won, I think, 3-0 at MK Dons. Newcastle beat Bournemouth 1-0. So clean sheet victories to get them back up and running. And with neither side massively affected by the World Cup, I think these two could be ones to watch in the weeks to come. That's if you believe that the rest is a good thing. I did hear from Pep Guardiola that the players coming back from the World Cup are in much better physical condition than the ones who stayed behind. So it might actually help teams to have had lots of players at the World Cup. Well, we'll see it unfold, won't we, in the weeks to come? But here it won't matter because they're playing each other. And I just feel it's a game where the defences could be on top. Both very well organised, well-coached teams. They won't want to give up a defeat here to sort of knock that form table. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Yeah, under 2 3/4 goals, you can get that at 1.8. And the goal line sort of is suggesting maybe overs, but I think we can slip in under 2 3/4 here. I'm looking at a 1-0 either way, perhaps a 1-1. That might be the favourite score line if I was to pick one. So under 2 3/4 for me.
Okay, yeah, under 2 3/4, as Adrian said, around the 1.8 mark. Mark, you're looking at something along the match odds in a draw, and we've spoken about this before, and it's something you do now and again. If you think a draw is overpriced here, and I guess that's probably what you're looking at here. 3.65 currently it is.
Yeah, I mean it all revolves around Newcastle really. 2.3 to win away at win it away at Leicester feels short, but then when you look at what Newcastle have achieved so far this season, they are projecting as a top 4 team on the underlying metrics. So they were in fantastic form before the World Cup. They are relatively injury-free, bar Isak. Only Trippier, Wilson, Pope, Bruno Guimaraes, and Fabian Schär went to Qatar, none of which went beyond the quarterfinals, and only Schär was really a regular as well. So the home squad, who didn't go to the World Cup, have been well prepared in training camps and playing matches as well. So I don't want to sort of dismiss them, but I think at 2.3, it doesn't really appeal to me to go away to Leicester and get a victory. They've only lost once all season, though, and that was back in August. And that was the very late reverse at Liverpool as well, where they probably deserved something out of that game as well. So it's just a case of, can I really sort of trust Leicester in any way? Can I back them with plus a quarter? Do I see them winning this game or picking up a share of the spoils? Possibly. I think, you look at the first half of the season, they obviously improved dramatically towards the end, but one of their key players was James Maddison, who's basically been kicking his heels now for 6-7 weeks and not played. And Adrian's just touched upon the fact that certain players haven't played regularly, might not be sort of fine-tuned for immediate return. So that would be a slight concern. But I think it's a very difficult game to call, this one. That's why I thought the draw at 365 was was the play. It's landed in 6 of Newcastle's 15 games, including 3 of 7 already away from home. They are the team to beat, obviously, and there's a big feel-good factor around the club still. 35,000 turned up for their home friendly against Rayo Vallecano last weekend, which kind of shows the clamour to get around the club right now. But Leicester, for me, the jury's still slightly out on them towards the end of the run towards the World Cup. The last 5 games came against bottom half sides of Palace, Leeds, Wolves, Everton, and West Ham. So during that resurgence, they have played kinder opposition, shall we say, and they competed really well against Man City, absolutely. But this is a difficult test, and I think this is a game I'm not going to be heavily involved in by any stretch. But if I was to be involved in, I think the draw was the most appealing play, just because of the price at 365. Adrian mentioned their potential for a low-scoring game, certainly compared to what the market is suggesting. And if it is a low-scoring game, then the likelihood of the draw really kind of comes into focus much more. So that was the thinking. But in all honesty, I'm not having a bet on this match.
Yeah, it does seem overpriced a tad. You made a good case for the unders, but I do want to throw in a bit of a curveball. So I'm going to lock in draw 3.65 as an official bet. I did notice you guys are disagreeing the next game, so you're already odds-on favourite to get the verdict there, Adrian. So it's up to you. It's
all good. I also looked at Leicester plus a quarter because of the price. You can get it at almost evens, where the only way you lose money is if Newcastle win. And I think it's a pick-em. I think there's an even shot of it being a Leicester win, a Newcastle win, or a draw. So you can get 2 of those 3 on side for Leicester plus a quarter. So that is the one to consider as well.
Yeah, maybe a fun one to cheer on, perhaps, while watching the race in the pub or whatever else is on the telly. We'll move on to the third game, which is the 5:30 game, one of the big games of the day. It's Aston Villa versus Liverpool. I've touched on a bit of disagreement already with the guys, so it'll be interesting to you, the listener, just make your verdict on where you want to go with this one. But Aston Villa are 4.8, Liverpool 1.8. The draw is 4.1. Both teams to score yes is 1.7. Villa get a 3/4 goal head start at 1.92, and the goal line is 2 3/4. So yeah, Mark, I'm guessing you think one of these teams is underpriced here and worth a bet.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if I saw Liverpool at 1.8 to win away at Aston Villa most weeks, I'd gobble it up. But this isn't most weeks, and this feels to me a bit banana skin-ish. World Cup wise, it wasn't too bad for Liverpool at all. Ibrahim Konate is the only player to go past the quarterfinals. The 6 others who featured in Qatar could or should be available. Matip and Keita are back in the squad after injuries as well. And Klopp said himself that he's very pleased with the work that he's done with his squad during an 11-day camp in Dubai as well. But Jota's still missing. Luis Diaz is now missing as well, which just put extra burden on Salah. Darwin Núñez is still there. Firmino is still there. So it's still quite a formidable forward line. But I think Aston Villa will probably be one of the real sort of beneficiaries of the mid-season break out of all the clubs in the Premier League. We know Emi Martinez won't play. I think that's probably wouldn't be a huge surprise. But I just think the break has allowed Unai Emery to work with this squad. And bar Martinez, all the other World Cup players were back early. All the other players have obviously had time to rest and refresh and just get in tune with Unai Emery and what he wants, how he likes his team to play. It's just acted as a really good opportunity for them to have a big pre-season. And look, friendly reports, you read whatever you want into them, but they've been very positive. And you just have to go back to his first 2 league matches where were back-to-back wins against Man United and an impressive Brighton team as well. We know all about Unai Emery's record of playing the underdog role, setting his side up to either stifle sort of more or less illustrious opposition or perfecting a game plan to maximise his own team's strengths. And I just think Villa played above and beyond expectations against Man United in similar circumstances in his first game. So I wouldn't be too surprised at all to see Villa compete really well here against Liverpool. A Liverpool team who have won just one away Premier League game all season, managed one away Premier League clean sheet all season as well. So I just thought, I don't want to back Liverpool at odds on. I don't want to back really any of the sort of away favourites at odds on quotes this particular week, because it is such an unknown really, and it is basically like starting the season from scratch. And I just think there's an opportunity there for Villa, who will be, 4 players away on World Cup duty, one of which went deep into the competition. That's basically Unai Emery's been rubbing his hands together and getting the best out of his squad during this time off. So it just feels like a couple of warning signs that I'm happy to leave Liverpool alone at the prices and support Villa plus half a goal at what's close to 2.2, which isn't at the worst price in the world either.
Yeah, Adrian, just what about those points on Unai Emery and having that time to work with the players? A lot of as Mark says, a lot of the players come back early. I do find myself agreeing a little bit with that angle. So take it away why you're back in Liverpool here.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely see that. I think new manager, language, not barriers, but it might take a while for the players to fully comprehend and get on board with what he's asking for, and it's given them the time to do it, hasn't it? A lack of match practice though is an issue, and look, when you start up against a team like Liverpool, who, let's be honest, no, they can't afford to start cold. I think this is a really tough opener for Villa after the break. I just think that Liverpool, given where they were, I don't know how bad they've been in the early weeks, they've got themselves somehow into contention. They won at Spurs, didn't they, in a huge game, really, really important game. I think that the penultimate game before the World Cup finals, that was massive for them. And they know they can't afford too many slip-ups. And I think there's going to be a real focus in the squad. Jurgen Klopp will have them absolutely pumped up. I think from a tactical point of view, having seen a lot of Unai Emery's teams, obviously, down the years, particularly at Arsenal, he will want to play out from the back. And I'm not sure that Villa have got the players to do that brilliantly. And Liverpool are ferocious, aren't they, when they're at their best, and when they're at it, they're a team that can really cause you problems. So I think there's going to be a few giveaways from Villa in the next few weeks and months, maybe, as they come to terms with that. And I think Liverpool are bad opponents for them if they're going to implement that this weekend. Obviously, they beat Milan, didn't they, the other day in a friendly? I know it's only a friendly, but Salah was on the score sheet. Nunez got a couple. He'll have a point to prove after sort of disappointment of Uruguay's World Cup campaign. And I just get that feeling that Liverpool will be at it in this game because they have to be at it. Historically, and I know that this shouldn't come into play, but Liverpool away to Aston Villa is their favourite fixture. No Premier League fixture has been won by the away team as often as Liverpool winning at Aston Villa. 15 wins at Villa Park. And Villa have lost 8 of their last 9 Premier League meetings with Liverpool. The exception, you'll all remember it. It was that 7-2 game. Yeah. So Villa, despite that 7-2, have pretty much no joy against Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. They certainly haven't in recent times. And that can be a factor. And the last point, and I think it's a really big point, is your number one goalkeeper's not there. And I think that is a problem. Obviously, they've got able understudies, but it's just different, isn't it? And Emi Martinez, as we saw at the World Cup, was a very dominant, sort of exuberant presence in the heart of that box. And I think it might unsettle the defenders a little bit more than they would usually be because he's not there. So, I'm confident with Liverpool. I know that Mark makes a very valid case about Villa being competitive here, but yeah, I just feel Liverpool can go there and win.
Okay. Yeah, Mark, any about those points you want to pick up with Adrian? I just thought it fascinating that normally you guys try and meet in the middle somewhere when you're disagreeing, but you're both sticking to your guns here. It's a good debate. Tough game to call, Mark, in fairness.
It is a tough game, and it's not just Liverpool. I won't be touching any of the away odds-on favourites in this particular round of fixtures for the reasons we've already sort of discussed. But Emi Martinez is a massive blow for Villa. The positive, the flip side, I'd say, is that they've had 6-7 weeks to prepare with the current defence, with the goalkeeper, the second choice goalkeeper in situ as well. So it's not like a kind of normal week-to-week Premier League game where he might have been suspended and he's going to be missing. So you have to sort of parachute in the reserve and sort of start fielding a sort of defence around him again. So there should be a bit of familiarity there at least. So yeah, I mean, I can easily see why Adrian wants to back Liverpool. And as I said to you at the start, any other week I'd be all over Liverpool at 1.8 because that price is very attractive. But this isn't any other week, so I'm happy to sort of go the other side of the coin. And as I said, I'm going to be on the underdogs for most of these matches, so there's no sort of great scientific reason behind it.
Yeah, no, again, and it's definitely not the week to be going with a lot of your betting balance. Like the guy said, there's a lot of more questions than answers, and hopefully we'll get some answers there. But I'll go with myself with Adrian slightly in at 1.8. And Liverpool, hopefully it's looking very big come 7:30-ish. We'll move on. So we're going to cover some of the 27th games in the any other bet section or best bet section, perhaps. But we're going to move on to the Leeds City, which is a the 28th of December at 8 o'clock. We'll take a look at betting as we have on matchbook.com. You can Burnley back Leeds at 10.5. And sorry, as it's just left my screen there for a second. So you can back Leeds 10.5, 6.2 is to draw, and 1.33 Man City. Both teams to score, yes, is 1.82. And then Leeds are getting 1 3/4 goal head start at 1.84. And the goal line's 3.5. Adrian, over to you on this one. It's Pep Guardiola's kind of touched on, and Mark alluded to it there, that a lot of the World Cup players will come back in better shape, but I guess you're still expecting Erling Haaland to be as good as ever because he's had time off.
Yeah, well, you should be. I mean, he did name Haaland and said he was a bit short, which I thought was interesting. Not going to leave him out though, is he? And if Erling Haaland was going to relish playing against any defence in the Premier League, I would pick out Leeds United. They're not great at the back, are they? They're an exciting team. We know that. They've been better this year, no doubt, no question, under Jesse Marsch. Obviously, the win at Anfield was crazy, and they've had some really good performances. They were unlucky to lose at home to the 5-point leaders, Arsenal. But I'm just going to keep getting that in while I can because it's sure to shrink. But no, they've conceded 16 goals in the last 7 Premier League games, and they're playing City. Obviously, you could say the same. Marsch has had time to work with his defence, etc. I think Luke Ayling's back fit and available. I did look at their last friendly, Leeds. I think it was last night, actually. They lost 4-2 at home to Monaco. Again, it's up to you if you want to read too much into it, but they conceded 4 goals at home at Ellen Road. And this is Man City. This is Erling Haaland. This is, one of the best attacking sides, if not the best attacking side on the planet. What I will say is that their worst home result so far is only a 1-goal defeat. Happened a couple of times, but I just feel that this might be a stretch too far. City looking to bounce back from that shock loss at home to Brentford. I think that Pep will have them fired up, ready to go. And even though there's no Alvarez, obviously they've got the game against Liverpool tonight, so we'll get a little idea, won't we, from that one in terms of where they're at. But yeah, City against teams in the bottom reaches normally means one thing. It means a City win, and often a clean sheet win as well. Yet to concede a goal against any bottom 8 side this season. You talked about the goal line, over 3.5. Well, if you don't think City are going to concede many because of what I've just said, they haven't let in a goal against a bottom 8 club yet, then you're expecting City to score 2 or 3, aren't you? At least. And I would too. So I'm going to back them to beat the handicap, which I know Mark wouldn't want to do because he's laid out his stall for valid reasons on the back of the break about not backing the favourites too much here, being wary. But I think they can win by 2 goals here, whether it's 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, or 3-1, 4-1, any of these score lines. I want to get them on side. So yeah, Manchester City minus 1.5 goals. I'm going to do it because I just don't trust Leeds United's defence to keep City at bay. I think they'll score at least twice here. Man City minus 1.5 goals, 1.85.
Yeah, it's a good point you make about friendlies. As irrelevant as sometimes they may be, to concede 4 goals is definitely worrying. Mark, you do want to get City on side, but you're going about it a little bit differently. So even though Adrian touched on some of their great defensive record against bottom 8 teams, you do think Leeds might potentially score here?
Yeah, just because the element of chaos they tend to bring into matches, and this being the first game after a long break, it's difficult to talk about this game properly without seeing the Man City team sheet against Liverpool on Thursday night in the Cup, because I'd like to see which players play or at least in the squad or available for that match rather than sort of taking this game blindly. But it will give us a good example of where they're at, because they played a friendly last week against Girona last weekend. 9 players featured who didn't play in the World Cup, but 3 of the back 4 were teenagers, which is obviously a concern. But Erling Haaland will play, Riyad Mahrez will play. We know that. De Bruyne and Gundogan are back. We know we're expecting the Spanish, English, and Portuguese contingent to be available for the 28th as well. But it's just that sort of not knowing right now, which is a little bit sort of concerning for me. I guess in terms of preparation, Leeds clearly have the edge on City for this. They had I think 2 weeks completely off after their final Premier League game, and then they've been back in full training basically. Preparing, but only 3 of their squad went to the World Cup: Christensen, Tyler Adams, and Aronson. None of them went past the last 16 as well. So they pretty much had a squad available to sort of get ready and play for a while now. However, there are issues as well, personnel issues with Leeds. Bamford's undergone groin surgery. Meslier has had glandular fever. Koch and Llorente have picked up injuries in the friendlies. Firpo's still struggling with a hamstring injury. I think most importantly for me, Tyler Adams is suspended for this as well, which is a massive blow. So you're missing key players possibly in both boxes. Arguably your standout goalkeeper, whether he's available or not, I'm not sure. Bamford's certainly your best striker. Adams is certainly your best midfielder. That's a really big blow as well. So Leeds have already lost 7 of 10 games against teams in 14th and above. City have dropped points just once against the bottom half. So, it makes sense to support City in some way or form. I could certainly actually get behind City -1.5. That's probably one of the few favourites on the coupon, which I do want to be with, is Man City. The fact that this game is taking place on the 28th, it just allows that extra wriggle room for players coming back from the World Cup to get themselves right and ready. But yeah, I've just backed City to win and both teams to score at 2.68, just as the price is quite alluring, to be honest. As I say, this isn't a normal game week, so I just think Leeds can possibly bring a bit of noise here. Ellen Road will be packed. They've given City a couple of problems in past. I know last season, obviously not, but the campaign before that, they gave City all sorts of problems at Ellen Road. So, if they can sort of rise themselves to the occasion, as they have done so far this season in sort of key games against Big Six opposition at Ellen Road, then I wouldn't be too surprised if they got on the score sheet, particularly if that City defence possibly missing a couple of key names. So, yeah, I think it's certainly a wait and see when you see the team sheets before sort of playing this. But if City are close to full strength, then clearly the handicap is the way to go. But at the minute, I think there is a question mark surrounding that. So I wouldn't sort of discount Leeds getting on the score sheet. That's why I took the bigger price option as something just to cheer on if that's what you fancy.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Mark touched on, City and Liverpool in action. Very tight turnaround for Liverpool, the 4 days. City getting 6 days with their game. Seems a bit unfair in that regard. I haven't heard Klopp yet talk about that, but I'm sure he'll bring that up tonight in the game. For sure, I'd be disappointed if he didn't. So that's the 4 games we're going to cover. I'm actually going to go with City -1.5, 1.85. Mark gave it a good shape there as well. We'll lock that in as a bet. But yeah, Mark, City and both teams to score does look overpriced if you're looking for a fun bet. Insights.matchbook.com, you can find a recap of all the best bets, and that will be up later this afternoon. We're going to go to any other bet section, which is a mix of EFL and the rest of the Premier League. So, Adrian, you have just the one EFL, I think, on the coupon this week. So this must be a confident selection, although it must be tough, given teams are only been back a week or two now to get them.
Matchbook haven't put up the League One and League Two odds when I was looking earlier on today, so they need to crack on with that. Otherwise, I might have done one or two from those divisions, but I'm sure it'll be there in no time. But this pick here, Middlesbrough v Wigan, both teams to score, is backed up by some very strong stats. So I'll wrap them off. 65% of Borough games, 65% of Wigan games have seen both teams score. It's a joint high. They're both at the top of the BTTS table. And obviously they meet this weekend. And so a number of other stats sort of fall into place around that. Borough and Wigan have only failed to score in 5 of 23 games. So, they've scored in 18 of 23 games each. Wigan are very able to score away from home. In League One, they had a terrific record, miles better away from home than they were on their own patch. And it's kind of been similar this season. They're always worth a goal. They're a funny team. Obviously, new manager now with Kolo Touré. They've scored in both matches that he's been involved in. So I can see that continuing. Obviously, Borough in good form under Michael Carrick as well. Clean sheet wise, not many. Borough, 5 clean sheets in 23. Wigan, 4 clean sheets in 23. So you can't really trust either of these defensively. Again, I was talking about that away form. Wigan have scored in 10 of 11 away games. So there's your number there that backs it up. Against a Borough team that don't keep that many clean sheets, again gives me confidence. And Borough have scored in 9 of 11 home games, so they're used to scoring in front of their own fans. So I just think it adds up to a decent game. Probably would side with Borough, but it could easily be a score draw this one. But I'm not going to pick a win. I'm just going to go with both teams to score and to see, given those numbers that I've just discussed, to see BTTS. Better side of evens. I think that's good. I really do. I think that might come down between now and kickoff.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how Colatori gets on there. One of the Invincibles, of course.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to the marks. We're going for another Premier League game here, Mark. It's Southampton versus Brighton. Both teams to score 1.78.
Yeah, it's actually just gone into 1.8 on Matchbook. Still not sure the markets are fully switched on and caught up with Brighton being, since the coaching change with Roberto De Zerbi there, they're definitely more front foot than they were under Graham Potter. They're definitely moving the ball quicker, playing more direct. That doesn't mean sort of launching the ball forward and long ball style, but they're certainly playing some exciting and entertaining football. The last 4 games before the break saw both teams scoring and over 2.5 goals copping. They've managed just 1 clean sheet in 8 since De Zerbi took charge. Well, they are creating plenty of chances, and that's borne out in the underlying metrics too. So I think they can, and I think they will score away at Southampton on Boxing Day, but I think they possibly will concede too. So both teams to score stood out, over 2.5 goals also stood out around even money. I think both valid options to take here. So Nathan Jones, clearly now the Saints coach, if you've forgotten about that, but he oversaw their 3-1 reverse to Liverpool before the break, where they gave up loads and loads of chances, a very large expected goals figure. So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of behind the scenes. Saints defence traditionally being quite weak defensively, but I still think they do offer a threat going forward, particularly at St Mary's, and they've scored in 22 of the last 26 home games in the Premier League, which is some record for a team struggling sort of in the bottom 6 perennially. And they're playing a Brighton team who've conceded twice or more in each of the last 5 away, but a Brighton team that scored in 21 of the last 26 away Premier League games as well, going back to the start of last season. So both teams to score has copped in 8 of Southampton's last 9. It's copped in 65% of their home games in the Premier League since the start of last season, and 62% of Brighton's away from home in the Premier League since the start of last season as well. So I don't think the market's fully in tune with where Brighton are right now, and I think Southampton at home, first game under Nathan Jones, will be keen to impress. So they also had a bit of a run around, for both teams did actually in the League Cup this midweek too, so it should be better for it. I'm expecting quite a good game here, so both teams to score at 1.8.
Okay, yeah, 1.8. We'll update that for Matchbook Insights. We'll stick with you for the long shot, Brentford, and both teams to score here that we talked about earlier, Mark. 7.8 currently. Seems quite big. Oh, I think you're muted there, Mark. Come back in again.
Apologies.
It's been a long year.
Yeah,
it's been a long year.
just a bit of a hunch really that Brentford can do something here against Tottenham. My favoured long shot has already been nabbed, or a version of it, by Adrian. So I've had to go into the reserves. But
snooze you lose, Mark. Snooze you lose.
It's so annoying. I did all my prep on Wednesday. I forgot to fill in the sheet until this morning, and obviously Adrian's been in there and pinched it. But I think Brentford can put on a show. I think Spurs won't be at full strength, and I've already outlined the reasons for backing Brentford plus half a goal and both teams scoring. So if that's the way I'm thinking, there's obviously reason to believe that Brentford could even pick up for the maximum points, which I think are around 4.3 to do so. But just adding in both teams to score gives it a right good leap up to 7.8. So that's a really nice price to cheer on. So Spurs missing. I think Bentancur is a big blow. Richarlison is a big blow. Defensively, they won't be at full strength either without Romero, possibly others as well. So I wasn't too impressed with what I saw from Conte's team before the break. I didn't find them trustworthy whatsoever. And I think away from home, there's potential to get against them again this week as well. I think Brentford will be up for this game, and I think they'll be difficult to stop.
Yeah, and it'll be a fun one to cheer on. 12:30 on the 26th as well. So 7.8. Adrian,
I'm one for me to cheer on. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's true as well. You don't need to back it. You can just watch it, sit back and cheer it on. But this is what Mark wanted to put in, which is very random that both you guys are on this. I'm very intrigued.
Well, I think Mark was looking at a slightly different one. It was Wolves to win at Everton under 2.5 goals. So it's either a 1-0 or 2-0. And I think that came in at 7 point. What was that, Mark? 7?
7.0, 6 to 1.
Yeah, 7.0. Yeah. I've just gone slightly more specific. I've gone for Everton 0, Wolves 1. 10.5 is a nice, juicy price on this. Well, Everton have failed to score in almost half of their games this season. 47%. That's the second worst record in terms of failing to score in the division. So they do have these off days, and I just don't think that Frank Lampard has come close to solving what's been quite a long-standing issue in regards to Everton as being quite a limp attacking force. So he's got to sort that out. They they failed to score, by the way, in 5 of their last 6 games as well, Everton. We know about Wolves. We know they don't score a great deal of goals either. I think they failed to score in 53%, the most, which is why 0-0 was something I looked at initially. But then I began to think, well, hang on. Wolves have got a new manager. You've got Julian Lopetegui, and it's very rare, isn't it? It's very rare that there is 0 new manager bounce. And I think he's clearly had time to work with his players. He deliberately took the reins, delayed taking the reins until the World Cup was on. And he's been working, I would imagine, very, very hard with his players. And his track record, his CV, isn't shabby. We know that. He's managed some good clubs, even though it went pear-shaped at Sevilla earlier on this season. So, yeah, I think that Wolves can benefit from a new manager bounce and put in a really spirited performance at Everton. Do I think they're going to rack up 2, 3, 4 or 5? No. I mean, this is Wolves we're talking about. And Everton are pretty tight at the back as well, aren't they? Under Lampard, they don't give away that many gifts. So I see a bit of a grind of a game. If I'm being honest, I think it'll be the best watch. But I can see Everton slipping up, and I can see Wolves getting off to a good start under Lopetegui. They did also win this fixture at Goodison Park 1-0 last season, Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I think the price on this is nice. So that's where we're headed.
Okay, yeah, Everton 0, Wolves 1, 10.5 potentially overpriced. And Mark, even QPR got that new manager bounce I saw, which just shows you, Adrian, you're spot on with that take, to be fair to you. We'll stick with you, Adrian, for best bets. This is double the odds, incidentally, for new customers. But United to win to 0 versus Forest is over evens, which does seem a small bit big.
I think so, which is why I picked it. I think the price is good. There's no form line in this fixture. The last time these two sides met, 1999.
Oh,
I dread to think how small you were, Daniel, at that point.
You don't want to know, yeah.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer scored 4, York 2, Cole 2. So we haven't seen this fixture for too long, that is for sure. Forest away from home. I saw them at Emirates. I mean, they offered nothing. I mean, just nothing in that game. They've scored 1 goal away from home this season. That was in a 1-1 draw at Everton. Their goal difference on the road, Nottingham Forest, and I know they've improved. And you know, Forest, they won 4-1, by the way, in the Carabao Cup at Blackburn in midweek, which was excellent. But their goal difference on the road in the Premier League is scored 1, conceded 19. So they're not a team you can yet get behind when they're away from the City ground. And you know that they'll set up defensively here. They'll look to play on the counter, and you wonder how many chances they'll get to score. As for Manchester United, haven't conceded a home goal in the Premier League since the Arsenal game. That was the 4th of September. VAR, I'll chuck this one in. VAR says they should have conceded 2 in that game rather than the 1, with admitting that Martinelli's early opener, which might have been game changing, should have stood. We won't dwell on that. But basically they've been conceding very, very few goals at Old Trafford in recent times. Rashford's in good form. Martial's fresh. You got Garnacho, Elanga, Sancho, sort of all rearing to go. I know that Lisandro Martinez will be out, but Harry Maguire should slot in for him, I'd imagine, if he doesn't Lindelof well. So that's not an issue for them. And of course, they've had a tune-up in the Carabao Cup, and they won 2-0 at home to Burnley, a win to 0. And I looked at that Burnley lineup. It was their strongest. He went for it, Vincent Kompany. Burnley and Nottingham Forest, I wouldn't put much between them, I've got to say. And this was not a strong Manchester United starting 11. There'll be a few upgrades coming in to the side for this fixture. So do I think they can win 2-0 against Forest? Absolutely, I do. So that's where I'm headed. Yeah, Manchester United to win the game, Nottingham Forest not to score.
Yeah, definitely watching that game, that Carabao Cup game. Burnley fancied it. I think they fancied a result and a shock win, similar to maybe a derby with Frank Lampard when they were in the Championship. They fell short, so United were a small bit impressive overall there. And Mark, over to you. Another Premier League bet, over 2.5 goals. This is your best bet, Crystal Palace versus Fulham.
Yeah, the price, even money, really appeals to me. I should mention that we haven't covered the Arsenal game, but between you, I think the over 12.5 mentions of Arsenal on this podcast has already paid out. So,
go collect.
Look, when it comes to the selections, always neutral. But 5 points top of the league. The Premier League's back. We got to milk it down, haven't we? It's 5.
top of the league, Mark. What do you expect?
Well, at least you gave QPR a mention and it wasn't me, so thanks, Danny. But
Right.
I guess even money for over 2.5 goals. We've talked many times across the first 15 match days really about Fulham, how they've impressed since their return to the Premier League, and the fact that Marco Silva has kind of reinvented them completely from their promotion-winning team from last season to be this front foot attacking, high pressing animal. It's caused teams really loads of problems, really, even from the first day against Liverpool. They followed that on quite consistently too. Their games have been largely full of goals, full of entertainment. I don't see why they'd look to try and alter that now, despite the break. So I think they'll see this as a winnable opportunity. They're already above Palace on goal difference coming into this match. And if you actually take out Fulham's results against the top 5, they've only lost once in 10 games in the Premier League this season, which is really impressive. 5 wins, 4 draws, and 1 defeat against teams outside of the top 5. So I think I've talked previously about Crystal Palace not getting the results that perhaps their play has warranted often under Patrick Vieira. They don't win enough games to be trusted at short prices either. I think that applies for this game too, with Palace being 2.14. But I just think goals makes much more appeal at even money for over 2.5. Of Fulham's 15 Premier League games so far this season, they've produced 50 goals at an average of 3.33. 13 of those 15 have seen over 2.5 goals. The 2 that didn't were 0-0 draws against Wolves and Everton. Combine the 2 XG totals from those 2 fixtures, you get 6.12. So perhaps on the balance of play, they really should have gone over 2.5 goals as well. But not just in data terms as well. You can definitely see this match featuring goals. Both teams have scored in 12 of Fulham's 15 overall. That's an 80% hit rate. They failed to score just twice. They've managed just 3 clean sheets all season. They're going to Selhurst Park, where both teams have scored in 5 of the last 6 for Palace. They've managed only 3 clean sheets all season. They've scored in 6 of 7 at home, but managed just 1 shutout at home as well. And under Vieira, I think they've scored in about 21 of 26 home Premier League games as well. So you expect them to get on the score sheet. You expect Fulham to get on the score sheet. And you don't require a huge amount else to get over the 2.5 line for even money either. So I just think individually and collectively, I think it's probably fair to say that both teams, their strengths are in the final third rather than defensive setups. And I think Palace, despite being fairly critical of them in this segment, I think it's really brave and quite refreshing to see Patrick Vieira setting up his team with the likes of Elise and Eze and sort of a midfield 3, very attack-minded, but it does leave them open to opposition attacks. And I think Fulham have got the tools to hurt them. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I think it could be quite a good London derby. So over 2.5 goals, even money.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, you always say keep fun at the betting at the forefront of your betting strategy. You've done a lot of overs and both teams to score this week, so you've stuck to your guns and backed it up. But yeah, Mark, Adrian, thanks a mil for everything this year. Adrian, plans for Christmas? Watching a lot of football, I guess, or
yeah, not much rest is there over Christmas. This is where it sort of starts to get really busy. But yeah, no, the World Cup was brilliant. Love. What a climax to it, by the way. I mean, that was the greatest World Cup final of all time. We got that messy fairy tale, didn't we? So that was wonderful, and it just sets us up for I don't know what could be a bit of a classic second half to the season in the Premier League. So yeah, just really excited about what lies ahead.
Yeah, and even with City potentially going for a Champions League, Mark, there's a lot going on in the Prem. But yourself over Christmas, I guess I know there's no European football. So is there less football for you to watch, or?
Oh, there's always football to watch.
So, I know.
Busy period. There is a few leagues in Europe starting again just after Christmas, but there's obviously loads of EFL, loads of EPL as well. So the darts is back as well, which is always great fun. So a bit of family time over Christmas, back to it on Boxing Day and get a bit of a break. Sort of start of January where the teams break off for the FA Cup. So that's kind of my next kind of breather opportunity.
Yeah, there's been a lot of mix and match in the darts. I was watching John O'Shea's game yesterday. It was atrocious, but there's been some good darts as well, and it does kick off big time after Christmas there. So there's darts, horse racing. We'll have a horse racing podcast as well. This will be the last weekend football podcast. We'll be back post FA Cup weekend. Give the guys a chance to refresh, recharge the batteries, and Miguel will join us as well. And we'll kick on from January. But my thanks to Mark, Adrian, and Miguel throughout the year. Insights.matchbook.com, and we appreciate you guys listening and watching throughout the year. We'll chat to you in 2023. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all.